Hi, I'm Daniel, I'm a sleep physician, and if you have insomnia, this channel is for you. Did your insomnia start with a bang? 2, 3, 4 or more days with almost no sleep? Are you living in the fear of the big one coming back? Please know that that fear is what is keeping you in the state of chronic insomnia. In this episode, which is especially for you, we're going to see how you can get past that fear and sleep fantastic. Hope you are doing really well today. I'm super excited. I've been thinking about this episode for a while, and I think it's going to be a good one, particularly if your insomnia started with that stretch of time where you didn't sleep at all, and you're now so fearful of that happening again. Before we get to it, just want to let anyone out there know that if if these videos are all you need to sleep better, that is fantastic. If you need a little bit more support and direct access to me, unlimited access to myself, and you have an iPhone, please download Bedtime with a Y. If you have an Android, it is coming your way. Hopefully you won't need it, but it is coming your way as well. I have one more announcement that I'm super excited about later too, but let's get to what I really want to share with you today, which is the following. I actually overheard Nick Wignall, psychologist, talking to Martin Reed, insomnia coach, on a podcast, and Nick said, I think what drives a lot of people actually is that fear of the big one. And that's been on my mind. I thought that was really insightful, and I believe it is true. So it's pretty much self-explanatory what the big one is. That's that initial bout of almost complete sleeplessness that typically lasts for 1, 2, 3 or up to several days, and it might be out of the blue for some people. I mean, out of the blue meaning you really didn't have any trouble sleeping until the big one, or you had a little trouble sleeping here and there but nothing major until the big one. That initial one, the big one again, is typically there is a clear trigger. It was a health scare, or I moved, or multiple things, like I just had a baby and we were also moving at the time, and I was starting a new job, and all these things just led you into the state of complete sleeplessness for several days. And then what happens is you never ever want that to happen again. First of all, for that negative experience, of course, but secondly, because during that time, you felt like you were almost going insane. You felt like, what's happening? This is crazy. I can't sleep. I'm not sleeping at all. And you're fearful that this may become permanent, or that you'll lose your mind, or something, or some sense of impending catastrophe. All right. And that then leads to a kind of behaviors that are actually not helpful. And we're going to see that. I've made a list of things I wanted to touch on today that I hope will be really helpful here. So number one out of 4 things that I hope will really help here. That the big one was at its core a normal reaction. It may not seem like that at all, and it wasn't entirely quote unquote normal, but the basis of it, there was a stressor that triggered sleeplessness. That in itself is not abnormal. Anyone that experiences stress will sleep less. If your dog got run over and you feel terrible, then if you then went on to sleep great, that will be off. When something negative happens, we're supposed to sleep less. Now, what happened with the big one was that there was a kind of additional reaction to it. It kind of spiraled out of control, but that in the basis of it, it was a normal reaction. Remember that. It was at the basis a normal reaction. That helps to demystify it. Seems less strange, which is super important. Number 2, you survived. You survived the big one. Your confidence in sleep may have been very shaken. You're really scared of it, and you're like, what could have happened if I hadn't taken these measures? What would have happened? Well, again, you survived it, which means that if something like that happens again, you will survive again. No catastrophe can actually happen. The body regulates sleep. After a stretch of near sleeplessness, you will sleep. It cannot. Nothing else can happen. So I think it's a really important part to remember, that you survived the big one. You got past it. Super important. And that in that catastrophe that you might have felt was about to happen didn't happen. All right, so that's another one. Number 3 here, the first cut is the deepest. When in all the interactions I've had with people that have had this like a really big one in the beginning, it hasn't happened again. So I think that is something that should make you feel better. In my experience, for people that have described the big one as the one that started, they haven't had that happen again. The first cut is the deepest. That was number 3, which I think is a good one, hopefully. And now here's probably the most important one. It is your fear of the big one that is keeping you in a state of chronic insomnia. When the big one happened, you probably took measures. You were like, I haven't slept for 2 days. I have to do something. I'm going to start keeping it dark. Now it didn't happen. I'm going to keep it cool. I'm going to wear the eye mask. Going to try some melatonin. They're going to do this and that. And then things kind of get a little bit better. And then you conclude that I'm doing all these things that have made it get better. Well, in fact, that's not the case. It's simply that your body has started regulating itself, like it got into sleep debt, and then kind of it corrected itself. But now you're fearful and you feel like I have to be in bed by this time. I have to wear my sleep mask. I have to keep it cool. Otherwise, I'm not going to sleep. And your sleep confidence is shaken. So you do have some on and off insomnia, right? But it's ultimately the fear of the big one and all the measures that you've taken that are keeping you in this perpetual state of insomnia. Because, all the things you're doing are just all your attempts at protecting your sleep, all these safety mechanisms are just a proof, evidence that you're fearful of the big one. And that fear, the preoccupation, the worry, the stress, anxiety is what is keeping you in a state of like continued insomnia. So I think that I really wanted to talk about that one. Now, the only way forward is not fearing the big one. That's the only way you can get out of the kind of chronic insomnia, the chronic baseline insomnia. So how do you do that? Well, I want to say that you have to take the risk. You have to expose yourself to the big one, meaning you have to let go of your safety behaviors. You have to stop trying to protect your sleep. If you're sleeping in the morning, if you're sleeping during the day, if you take any opportunity to sleep, if you keep it dark to produce sleep, you have to let all that go. Spend less time in bed, focus less on sleep, do things that make you happy. Just try to be happy and active and do things that are fun. Now you may think, what if the big one comes again? Well, here's the thing. There are kind of 2 scenarios here. Either, which I feel, based on interacting with a lot of people, is more likely it doesn't come back. You might have a little version of it, but it doesn't come back full force. So most likely, if you let go of the safety behaviors, spend less time in bed, do all the techniques that I talk about here, the big one will not come back. That's most likely. Number 2, let's say the big one comes back. Well, guess what? You got past it one time and you will get past it a second time. Now things are different. Now you have survived the big one twice, which means that you're even more confident that you will do it a third time, which is actually even less likely to happen. So the take-home message here is, this situation is very common. You have to stop fearing the big one to get to a point of sleeping well on a nightly basis. Hope this was really helpful. And as always, please comment, please send me emails, daniel@insomniainsight.co. And finally, quick announcement. I'm super excited. Me and Michael Schwartz we have decided actually to start the Sleep Coach School. We always talk about how these ideas, the thoughts, all the techniques we know about needs to get out there. So our thought is to start a school for people that are in the healthcare sector that need kind of like a kind of a little coaching degree or like a certificate in sleep coaching, and teach them the tools that we know about, so that if you're like a social worker or you're a physician or you're a nurse practitioner or a PA or anybody that takes care of people that have trouble sleeping, you can take a little course and learn these techniques, and then eventually a bigger offering, like a way of teaching somebody everything we know, so that you potentially could be self-employed as a sleep coach and help people with sleep. So I'm super excited about that. We'll talk more about that as we go forward. And I will conclude here and hope to have you back tomorrow. Until then, take it easy.